Good afternoon. I'm Geoenvironmental Atmospheric Forecaster on your Saturday. It is a few days before Christmas, and the models are hinting on some snow for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast. With that being said, we're going to sit down here and collect ourselves a very short video. We're going to show you the GFS track and thoughts, the GFS precipitation and thoughts, some scenarios, and our overall thoughts for the end of the video. So let's kind of jump right into it. We'll show you first the track and the pressure map. And what we're going to find here with this whole thing is starting about Christmas Eve, the evening time, and we're going to show you some variables that are very significant to the track and what this decides to do and what not. So first of all, we're going to point out in the brighter colors, this is where our storm would be positioned, the low pressure, and it would be coming out of, or at least the majority of the energy would be coming out of the lakes or the upper Midwest, and it would then combine with some energy out of the Tennessee Valley or from the Gulf. Those two will arise together, and they will bring some precipitation into the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast, posing, if temperatures cold enough, some ice, some snow. That is looking likely. Last night there was a little more, not so much as of this afternoon, but there are a few key factors that do come into play because of that, and we'll explain that on this video. But as we do see here on Christmas Eve, we do have that low pressure being there. Out here in that lighter pink that you see, that's where an area high pressure exists. And so really in the middle here is where you have some of those isobars being the tightest. Now, the problem with this low pressure trying to hit its way off to the coast is this blocking feature that we see up here positioned. It's a very strong high pressure. It's not going to be stubborn. It's not going to stick there the whole entire event. It's going to move away eventually. But as for pumping up those temperatures a little bit, giving us that precipitation type concern, whether it's rain, whether it's ice or snow, that being more toward the Mason-Dixon line, that we're going to need to follow more closely toward. But what we will say is this low pressure will begin to track more into the western half of the region. With that, the high pressure will track east of it. So really the low pressure, the high pressure, they're playing tag. High pressure is running away, the low pressure is chasing after it. As I did say before, the precipitation type would be more of the concern, whether it's rain, ice, snow. We all know, or if you don't know, a low pressure has a counterclockwise direction, so the airflow would be moving in this point of view, and then the high pressure has a clockwise. So we'd be having with the two arrows moving from a southerly flow or a south and easterly. So really in here we're not talking about the opposite of where the cold air would be damming. Instead we're talking about the warmer air trying to, or at least what is warm, trying to head from the south on north. So from what I'm saying here, with this low pressure moving into the region overnight Christmas Eve into Christmas Day, this wouldn't be something that would keep in there. It would lock in. The temperatures would stay about the same. The rain-snow line, mixed line, if you will, that will move a little bit. So it's really a bigger key factor of trying to decide where that particularly stays at or begins to track either south or north with. But that will happen eventually when the low pressure gets closer. Speaking of when the low pressure gets closer here, it will move into the western half of the region, which I explained on the last slide. And as I said, there goes that high pressure now further off the Atlantic, and the low pressure will continue to track on east, play tag with that. And now we start to see even some of these isobars, and that's those lines you see, they're starting to expand more toward the coast here. You see how they're trying to wedge out, and that means that this low pressure here and some of this energy is starting to peter out toward the coast. And if that happens, or eventually of what the models are trying to portray or make it happen, is tap into then a coastal. Again, earlier the coastal, probably the colder the scenario, even into the Mason-Dixon line and southward for snow, probably even more precipitation, but the later the tap toward the coast, a little warmer, snow would be a little more north, and of course you wouldn't have as much, or you would have at least more snow toward northern Pennsylvania, New York, and around those New England states. We'll go through here and we'll explain that as the slides pick up. And again, this image here from the last one we shown was Christmas Eve evening. This is now midnight, heading into now Christmas. And the next slide now, that begins to tap to the coast, either off the Jersey Shore or on Long Island, and just somewhere around here is probably where it'll end up tapping. And so that's probably looking best for your snows to be around in here, just to the northwest, and of course the cold air now coming behind it. You don't have to worry about the high pressure or low pressure. This now is significantly just the stance of a low pressure being involved, and that again, that taps, and that's now your Christmas morning, or about 6 a.m. or so, and then by Christmas afternoon, this low pressure now begins to track out of here off Cape Cod. It's probably given Massachusetts, Connecticut, Long Island, Cape Cod. You guys probably getting some snow out of that. That's a good shot for you. Will be cold enough as well. But as for back across New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and the rest of you states, your snow's done. It's a really quick hit miss type of event. It comes in Christmas Eve, leaves overnight Christmas into Christmas morning, affects those states highlighted right here in front of you, and by Christmas evening, some snow's on the ground. Might not be a lot, but if you're hoping for a white Christmas, I think that's looking much more likely at this point. So we're going to look at a few more things here, and then we'll get you going. But we'll show you now the precipitation with the actual pressure and the isobars, those lines that you see. So here, this is now Christmas Eve evening. We have the primary low pressure there. And you have one bit of energy right there, or one bit of precipitation with it. The second is right here. So these two are eventually going to split. And so one's going to go off the coast, the one's going to go up here into the western regions, western Pennsylvania, New York, and eventually they're going to come together about where I circled a couple slides before off New Jersey, Long Island, and so on. So that's Christmas Eve, and then this comes to be midnight on into Christmas. Now what we're talking about is the primary low sticking around western PA. You got that energy over here starting to maneuver off to the coast, the primary from the primary low out here, and then we're talking about somewhere around early Christmas morning, it locks off the coast. You have your precipitation from the primary now coming across northern Pennsylvania and New York. You have the secondary piece off the coast, now off New Jersey, and so forth and so on. And of course, all comes together by Christmas afternoon. It's affecting some of those locations there and across New England, Massachusetts, Connecticut with some snow, and that's really the general track that we have here. This isn't going to be, I don't think, a huge event. I don't think it's going to lock down airports and keep people stranded for days like we had a blizzard in the Midwest. Anything nearly that speaking, we don't expect. But as for a white Christmas, as for a couple inches or even as little as a dusting, I think that the possibilities for that are likely. What we will have to watch very closely as we get toward Sunday and into very early Monday is where are the temperatures? What are the temperatures? Where are the thicknesses going to be with where the low and high are going to be positioned, and who's going to see the ice, who's going to see the rain, who's going to see the snow, and of course then where will the heaviest of that be, and all that has to be sought out the next 24 to 36 hours, but we will be at Geoenvironmental Atmosphere tracking that for you. Last but not least, we have one more mention to make out of this, and that is the troughing of the short wave. No, this is not a long wave. It doesn't have all this moisture to play around with. It's a short wave, something that comes out of the northwest, connects with some southerly stream moisture, and basically comes in, hits, and gets out of here within 12 to 18 hours. But the 0Z models, the midnight models, Friday night had a lot more precipitation, a lot more snow, and that's because it was a lot more amplified. And when that trough is more amplified, you get a lot more precipitation, some colder air, and that's why it was looking 6-7 inches for some places in the mid-Atlantic. Now, 12 hours later, we're talking about not as much, or at least half of that, and that's because the trough isn't as amplified. So not only are we watching the precipitation types, but we're also watching the amplitude of the trough and how all this comes to be. So we're going to watch this, continue to watch it, update you through in and throughout, leading up into Christmas Eve and Christmas. But as for my opinion, I do think that there is some snow on the way for the Mid-Atlantic and Northeast to give you that old classical and fashioned white Christmas. So I really thank you guys for listening here, this long 10-minute video, but one I hope you understand a lot more of for this upcoming Christmas. Be sure to connect more with us at www.geoea.org and our Facebook page, which we are very interactive with. Y'all have a good rest of your Saturday, and be sure to check in with more updates.